We back. Season 2. Ooh. The ooey
Ready.
This is nice. We're back. I feel good to be back. It's been too long. Music and mental health. Season 2. With your host, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll please, Jacob Lucero.
Glad to be on here. Super excited.
Hell yeah, I'm super excited, man. I miss this beat. I love the way this thing comes on. It just charges me up. Something about this. This is
It's
episode 18.
18.
Crazy. Episode 18. We're going to keep this thing going. My goal is to get music and mental health to at least 1,000 episodes. If we can get it to 1,000 episodes, and I think I've done my job as far as objectives goes.
You know what's nice is listening to this beat when you're driving in the morning. I used to be driving to school in the morning and I used to have my windows rolled down. And like it would just play in straight into the podcast. It was such a great vibe.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. I'm glad you're feeling that. And how cool. Someone who was a fan of music and mental health. Of course, we've had you on before, but now you're my co-host for season 2. It's exciting.
So excited.
I'm ready to take this music and mental health thing to the maximum. We're taking it to the ethers. We're taking it to the upper echelon. Shout out Travis Scott.
Oh yeah.
What do you think about that Travis Scott song with MIA? And it's Young Thug.
Yeah,
franchise?
Young Thug, MIA. Yeah, franchise. I thought it was good. I didn't really like MIA's part that much. I don't think a lot of people did, but I wasn't really feeling it. I really wasn't feeling it.
That's something that is circulating right now. For whatever reason. I don't know why. But
I feel like people forget, like, MIA's, they made Paper Planes. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, is that the same one? Because when I was listening with some of my homies, like, oh, this is the same person who made Paper Planes. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. Paper Planes is a good song, though. MIA has some good songs.
Paper Planes is a classic. Personally, I think MIA is in a league of her own. I think MIA is one of the dopest to ever do it. And I slightly took offense to all of the trashing on behalf of MIA. I don't know why people weren't feeling it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what people have against it. I don't know. What you tell me. What was wrong with that verse?
I mean, I think it was the pitch and the tone of the verse. Because Travis is Travis. Like, he has his ad-libs. He has his certain sounds to him. Like, no one is really the same, especially with his auto-tune. She came in and I don't think it matched the song. I don't think it matched the vibe.
Damn. See, I don't know. Like, I liked it so much because I felt like her vibe on that joint was unique. And I felt like it was like the ponds crossing over, the crossing over of the Atlantic and like kind of like meeting in the middle at this central ground in which you have this epic shit going on. You got MIA, Young Thug, and Travis Scott. Like, who would have thought?
Maybe it has to do with also with the people who are listening, because I don't think today's youth really has that much appreciation for MIA because they really weren't around when she was doing her thing. So I feel like they're like, oh, Young Thug, Travis Scott. Like, who's MIA? Like, they don't. I feel like half of them don't even like really know.
Yeah, that could be it. People are like, oh, who's on this song? I just saw people just going in from the jump. Like, the second that song dropped, it was like, yo, MIA, it's trash. You're no good on this song. Why did they add her on this song? They could have chose somebody else, man. I don't get it. And I don't know, man. I'm an MIA fan.
Mm-hmm.
I have several MIA albums. And I thought I was just so pleased to hear Travis Scott and MIA. And I thought the video was super dope. You saw the video?
I haven't seen it yet.
The video's ice cold. See,
Oh, I
maybe
gotta
if the
watch.
youth would watch the video, perhaps their opinion would change.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not even a huge fan of Young Thug, really, but I thought he did good on the song. And that's like, I'm very honest too, because Young Thug had a verse on Amine's album, and I wasn't feeling it. And I told some people, I was like, yo, I'm not really feeling this feature. And they're like, dude, Young Thug's a goat. Young Thug this. I'm like, I don't know, but I'm very honest with his features. He did good on that song. I think he did good. The MIA, I don't think it was horrible by any means, but I just wasn't feeling it.
And how do you feel about just music overall? Because you are a very intense listener in the world of music. You listen to a lot of music. What does music do for you, and what would you be without music?
Dude, music is everything for me. I mean, I remember I was like 5 years old driving around town with my dad, and he introduced me to Motown. And he said, he looked at me, he goes, they don't make music like this no more. I used to always look at him and say, why? Wait, why don't they make music like this? Because I never understood what music was. And so it was actually through like Motown, like the Temptations and songs like Can't Get Next to You. That's what made me really actually appreciate and love music, because I was such a little age, and growing up, I used to know every lyric to every song. I used to know classic rock. My mom would listen to her 70s and 80s, and then I'd have my stuff. And I don't know, man. I really listen to the lyrics. Lyrics mean a lot to me. Of course, there's a time and place for like Turn Up and all that, but lyrics mean a lot to me. I love people who come out of their show and make original music, and they do their thing because it expresses their personality so well. Like I was talking about Amine just a minute ago. I love Amine's album because when you listen from his last album, I think it was 1.5. It's not even remotely. It doesn't even remotely sound the same, and that's like an evolution because you can see him growing as an artist, and that's so, to me, like that makes me appreciate him even more in his music. And so when I'm listening, I listen to things like that from artists. Like how are they growing? How are they? It's beautiful to see because music is an art, and there's so many ways of expression through it, and it's beautiful.
So when you were driving with your pops back in the day, early days, early Jacob Lucero, coming of age,
Yep.
what's the earliest song you remember your dad showing you as far as they don't make music like this anymore? What's that first memory in your head?
It was Can't Get Next to You. I remember I had a crush on this girl in preschool, and I remember walking in and I was like I was trying to get next to her, and I had the song in my head like Can't Get Next to You, babe. And I was like trying to get next to her. So that was my very first memory because
Al
I remember
Green,
that so
Can't Get
vividly.
Next to You.
No, I don't think it
Temptations,
was
Can't Get Next to You.
Temptation. It was in Temptations. Yes, it was in Temptations. But I just remember that in my head, and I was just like trying to get next to her nonstop. And that was my very first memory. He's like, they don't make music like this. He had one of those burner discs. You remember those where you can make your own custom CD? You can
Yeah,
burn your
like
own songs through iTunes.
so the old school phrase was a CD burner,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
And
it was basically a disc within a disk drive within your desktop, within the tower, within the desktop tower that you could put a blank CD in, and you could
mhm.
add music or playlist to that CD, and then you could export the joint and take the CD, give it to the homies, or put it in your car and whip around.
Yep. That's what we
Crazy.
used to do. We had so many of those, and we used to just be whipping around, just bumping it.
Crazy to think technology has come so far. Like, look at
I
how
know.
we are listening to music now. Where would you be without your iPod? And that's
Yeah, I
the
was just gonna say
iPhone, right?
that. You remember when the iPod Nano came out? How crazy that was! Like the little tiny one. I'm not even talking like the iPod, like the Touch or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like the iPod Nano, like the one that could go on your arm. People thought that was crazy because you could have so many songs on there, and then just like everyone thought that was revolutionary. And to where it is now, where it's all on your phone, Spotify. I mean, think about Pandora when that was a thing. That was insane at the time too. I mean, that's just the evolution of it is insane. I mean, music always finds a way, man. It keeps growing.
No doubt. Pandora never really caught me like, oh shit, Pandora. Like I was never
Yeah,
into Pandora, to be honest. Like I never rode that train straight
yeah.
up. But um the iPod though, the iPod Nano, the iPod Mini. I had an iPod Mini. I had a
Ooh,
cyan blue iPod Mini. I remember the
yeah.
summer I got it. I was in 7th grade, and my whole life changed because at the time they had like Napster and like LimeWire, and
Oh,
that was the hot
LimeWire.
ass thing to do. Like you could
Oh yeah.
download any song you want illegally and steal it to your MP3 player and plug it up on your MP3 player and just roll with it, man. I just remember having, I think I had a 4 gigabyte iPod Mini, and it just changed my life, man, because that was like the summer I really realized how much I was in love with music, and it's that
Mhm.
accessibility of music. But you know, shout outs to your pops and my pops and their generation. They didn't have iPods. They had 8 tracks or vinyl or CDs, as you say. But the CDs came in the 90s, and that's the late
Mhm.
90s, because early 90s, it was the cassette tape, and the cassette tape was whack because, of course, you know, the film or the little ribbons of sound would, I don't even know what that word is, like the tape
Yeah.
ribbon, or it's just
I think it's ribbon. I think it's
such a
ribbon.
strange thing
old term. Such an
to,
old
to
term.
deal with, even like just like, damn, I gotta put this tape in here, and then this shit's gotta rewind, and it's playing off of this ribbon like a film roll would play, like in an old school movie theater, but it's on a
Hmm.
tape. Of course that didn't last too long because it just wasn't reliable, you know. And I think that's what even happened from the CD. People started realizing, okay, well, the CD's scratched, the shit's skipping down, you know. It's like,
Trying to put
oh shit,
toothpaste
like,
on it
no,
to
who
revive
scratched my
it.
CD, bro? Scratch my CD, man. I've never
Did you
let
do
you
that?
borrow my. What'd you say?
You put the toothpaste on it to try to revive it, try to get the scratches off?
Damn, is that a legit thing? You could do that?
It worked for me, but I don't know if it worked because I was just cleaning it or like it really worked.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else besides "Can't Get Next to You"? What other? What's another Motown? Damn, they don't make them like this anymore, Mr. Lucero.
Ooh, Kanye reference. Probably. See, I even went like 3 years ago. I saw a play. It was a Motown play. They were like supposed to be on Broadway or something, but they weren't. They were traveling, and I actually went and saw it. And I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed it so much. And to me, it made me think like, damn, Motown is the greatest label of all time. It really made me think that when I saw it.
Yo,
But
straight up, I think you're right. To be honest, I think Motown is probably the greatest label of all time. If not Motown, Columbia. If not Columbia, Def Jam. But let's not
yep.
get in that Def Jam conversation. We'll never get to that. But I still rep. I still rep the home team. I still think it is the most iconic label out there,
I mean,
and I'm still
at
very
the
proud to be a
time,
part of it.
of Motown, man, they had powerhouses. I mean, I don't think people recognize how big those artists were at the time. Like today's people, I don't think they understand that. Like, it wasn't just anyone it was signed to. Like, if I had to put that into like today's perspective, I'd say like, imagine Drake and J. Cole and like who's some big Ariana Grande, like those big artists. Like, imagine all of them on the same label together. That's how it was basically.
Well, it kind of is like that today, except the label's known as Universal Music Group.
Yeah.
And I almost want to say all those artists that you named are under Universal Music Group. But of course, that is like the mega granddaddy umbrella. And then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, underneath that, things happen, whether it's Sony or
Mm-hmm.
Def Jam or whoever, you know, good music. It's crazy, the whole label thing. But you know, much like music media formats, the industry is changing, and the perspective of labels is also changing. Have you had the opportunity to see what Kanye's been ranting about lately?
Yeah, I have, and I actually listened because Kanye interests me a lot, and I just like to see how his brain works because I think it's some of the stuff he says I don't agree with, but I just like to see how his brain works. It's interesting to listen to what he says. But I listened to his Joe Rogan podcast, and he was explaining it on there.
Yeah.
He was explaining it that he wasn't trying to. He said I'm not trying to take anyone's job. I'm not trying to take anyone's money. I'm just trying to do what's right. Because he was basically saying like, what did he say? He said something that like when they sign these contracts, they purposely fuck these artists over, like on purpose, and everyone just turns their head and acts like they don't see it. But like from the second they sign it, they're just trying to fuck the artist over, is what he was saying. And I mean, if I didn't really pay attention to music like that, or I didn't listen to his podcast, I mean, I would have never really known that. Or shows like Dave. I don't know if you've seen Dave on Hulu.
I've seen clips. I haven't seen it.
Dave, he emphasizes, he doesn't emphasize it a lot, but he makes it known that like people in the industry are try to mess with your creativity, or like they try to contain you. They kind of try to trap you. And if I hadn't seen those shows though, I would never know. I would never know. And I wonder how many people never know, because people think like, oh, music's just music. Like you just make music, put it out there. But there's so much more to it.
Speaking of which, check out this amazing song by a friend of mine whom I met in the UK. Homie's name is Danny Seth. You heard of Danny Seth?
I have not.
Danny Seth. The name of the joint is Pop Star. And he just put out a video for it, I believe, yesterday. And it directly connects to everything that we're talking about right now. It's an incredible video. He's running around in this puppet like a mentality, and these strings are attached to him, and the executives in the suits and ties are like morphing him into what they think the artist is of today. So like the camera like pans, and all of a sudden he's got on like some rainbow like fluffy ass sweater and all these face tats. It's crazy video, bro. Super crazy. Big shout outs to Danny Seth. The name of the joint is Pop Star. Everybody check that out. That's definitely the newest tune, the newest song that I've listened to. Tune. I love the terminology tune in describing music. Is something you don't really hear too much unless it's like the old heads or the jazz heads in New York. I remember working on some music for this musical I was writing in New York, and I commissioned a couple homies of mine that I did some shows with. One of them played the trumpet, John Blevins, and the other played the saxophone, Brad Mulholland. And they would be like, yeah, I like that tune. It's a good tune. And for whatever reason, I was so fascinated in that. I was like, oh, like, I love it when you guys say tune, like, because nobody says that. But that's their way of saying, I like that song. Something else I was thinking about recently, you know how we're always like, oh, yeah, that beat's dope. That beat's really dope. Oh, that beat's fire. Yo, play that next beat in the studio. Yo, play another beat, Six. Yo, play that other beat. But, like, back in the day, in this Motown days, like, motherfuckers weren't in the studio like, yo, play that beat. Marvin Gaye wasn't like, yo, play that one beat again. Marvin Gaye was like, yo, play that song again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy, like, what 40 years has done? I mean, that's more than 40 years. You're talking Marvin Gaye. It's 2020. So 1980. I guess Marvin Gaye could have been making some shit in 1980. I'm actually not sure when, let me double check this, reference this. When Marvin Gaye passed away. Now, I've said this before. I don't know if I had the opportunity to say this on the podcast, though. Marvin Gaye passed away April 1st, 1984. So definitely, I was right. 40 years ago, Marvin Gaye wasn't sitting there like, yo, play that beat. Marvin Gaye was like, play that song. And to play that song, there was musicians in the room. Motown, you're talking about one of the greatest labels. Let's not forget why. Because the musicians of Motown, they pretty much had like one house label band that played on everybody's shit. If I'm correct, I could be wrong, but I believe that's how it was back in the day. You know, it wasn't like just one producer sitting in the corner like stacking
And that's
beats on a
so
hard drive.
insane. That is so insane to think about, because that is like a lost art today almost.
Right.
Almost. It's not completely, but almost.
Well, I think it's definitely close to a lost art form in terms of live musicians. It's close, but there's definitely many occasions where many artists today still use live bands for their recordings and their production. You know, and in my case, I definitely like to run with real musicians, live musicians as well. You know, guitarists and people that play drums or organ or piano. You know, Kev Keys, Tomo. These are the kind of cats I need in the studio with me because I want to make some organic type shit. I got to play you the album soon. Now that you're on the other side.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, you're on the other side now, brother.
Now I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. What would you say is the difference between making music with a live band compared to just like something through FL Studio? When with some people actually in the room, would you say there's more connection, there's more energy? Or would you say it's about the same?
I think it's a huge difference, man. It's a huge difference. I am in a remote location right now in Egypt, and I have not been able to work in a studio setting for the entirety of 2020. Wow. I believe the last time I was in a studio, I take that back. It was in Raphael Sadiq's studio, and we were mixing, working on some of my project, which was probably in February. So February would have been the last time I was in an actual studio. But even then, we were just, you know, tweaking some things, dialing some sounds in, and, you know, getting the joint ready to get mixed. And man, just to answer your question, two completely different worlds. When you're by yourself and you got a laptop or an MPC and it's just you know, it's a different vibe. You can lock in and like really catch the zone on a good day if you get lucky. But for me personally, I'm starting to realize how much of a studio recording artist I am. I make the best material when I'm in a studio. I make the best material when I'm surrounded by other collaborators, or even if I wasn't surrounded by collaborators, even if I was in the studio by myself, that distraction element of being at home compared to the focus position of being in the studio, it's light years difference for me in the workflow, in the output, in the material. It's a huge difference, man. I prefer working in the studio. I prefer working with other artists and other recording artists and other musicians, because I honestly believe that's how the best music comes to light. Like you said, Motown, they don't make it like this anymore. The reason it was so good is because you had the homie playing drums, and he was literally, he came in that room to play drums. And that's all he ever did.
There's a HBO documentary, maybe it was Showtime, about the Eagles. It was like a 2-part series. I think it's like 4 hours in total.
I have not seen it. Is it called Hotel California?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I'll find it after this. But I watched it when I was about 15, and I just remember it changed my perspective on the way music was made, because they went into depth of like the very start of their career to the very end. But in between, they were talking about when they were making albums and they were playing live music together. And they just, the way they were explaining it was so phenomenal. Like they just said that they could not stop because they were in sync. They were so in sync. They just could not stop making music. And that's what made me even appreciate it even more. So when you talk about that, I think of the Eagles and I'm like, damn, because it's almost more charismatic when you hear it, when someone's actually rocking with it, and like, you know what I'm, because there's a difference between like just making it and like really being in that
Zone.
same zone with someone else. Yeah, with
No
multiple
doubt.
people.
No doubt. Huge difference. And that's why I believe Motown truly is the greatest label, the greatest era of music. I think the greatest music of all time, the greatest decade of music was probably like 1965 to 1975. Anything in between there is just solid. Solid
It's
as a rock.
revolutionary. I'd say it's revolutionary.
No doubt. And the revolution was going on at the same time. Do you want a revolution? Yeah. Crazy because of what was going on in the world. Of course, you know, people today are like, oh, yo, you know what? Just do music, bro. Stay out of politics. Like, you fucking idiots. Don't you guys realize 69, 68, that's what music was. Music was politics. Music was fighting against the man, fighting against the system. I can't stand it when people say like, oh, just keep doing music instead of politics. I hate reading those comments. But bro,
I was listening to what's going on the other day. And I looked at the cover on Spotify, and they had the Black Lives Matter signs, and it made me think of that, because I was like, people always say that, but like, I don't think they understand, like, music has been doing this forever, and it's not until recently that people started complaining like, oh, just shut up and make music, stick to that.
No doubt. My brain's been all over the place for this podcast already, because I'm just jumping into different ideas and different sections of conversation. But I was going to say earlier when I was talking about Marvin Gaye, What's Going On is the greatest album of all time. And What's Going On is also the greatest album of 2020. In my humble opinion, there's nothing I've heard more, and there's nothing I've enjoyed more, there's nothing I've felt more on a deep level as What's Going On. It's the most pivotal, the most important record. It's the most important album ever. And it's crazy because Rolling Stone just put out their updated top 500 albums of all time, and What's Going On is number one. It's just sitting there cooling. Like, it deserves it. And once again, we're going back to the idea of a band is sitting in a room. When you put that record on and you listen to it, you can hear the artistry, you can hear the musicianship, you can hear the synchronization between, like you said, people in a room together, locked in, zoned in. This
now imagine
frequency.
that in a concert, because who was it? Queen, or was it was Queen, that video of him performing in front of like the biggest, what was it, Queen that I'm thinking
Wembley?
of?
Is it Wembley?
Yes.
Wembley Stadium?
Yeah. Yes. Can you imagine that? Because that had live music, like that was live. But in like that energy compared to like if that happened today, I don't even think would be even near the same. Like even remotely near the same.
Yeah, I don't think so either, man. But in order to get there, we have to go back to the root of music. We have to go back to what makes music special. And I think what makes music special is the collaboration. You know, like you said, they don't make it like this anymore because too many people are so selfish and conceited that they're like, oh, I did this all by myself. I didn't need anybody's help. I did it by myself. But to me, like, yeah, I could definitely sit here and make an album by myself. I could sit here and write some scripts by myself. I could sit here and, write whatever by myself, and I could believe in it and love it and, appreciate it. But, man, nothing like collaborating with a guitarist, like someone who their whole life was playing guitar, or a saxophonist. This cat came up playing saxophone. Like me, I play multiple instruments. Yeah, I could play guitar. I could play piano. I could play some drums. I could do MPC, percussion. I could play the harmonica. But, I'm like a Renaissance man. Like everything is like, I have my strengths and weaknesses. But when you get in a room with like a master, when you sit in the room with Kevin Randolph and you're like, okay, hit that organ, it's a whole nother thing. I can't touch the B3 like Kevin Randolph can touch the B3, and I don't know if I ever will.
If you could pick two artists right now, maybe not even present. Like they don't even have to be alive. But if you could pick two artists to collab on an album, who would you pick?
Right now,
They don't even have to be alive. They could be of all time.
See, that makes it hard when you say of all time. But my instinct, even when you say of all time, I still want to collaborate with Kanye West. I would still love to, do a whole album with Kanye, even if he just produced, or was the executive producer and guiding me.
His production is just crazy. I saw something this morning. I saw a video of someone was talking like, do you remember when Life of Pablo dropped and you heard Father Stretch My Hands? And I remember that so vividly because it was so, when Kid Cudi comes in on it, and it's just like, that whole album, like when it dropped, it's such a special time because that, to me, I think that was my favorite album of 2016 when it released.
Wow. 2016, man. 2016, time's flying. I remember when that album came out. I remember the first time I heard it. Personally, this was kind of on the decline of my Kanye fanatic ism. I used to be a huge Kanye fan. It's funny, we were talking about that podcast earlier, and I was watching that same podcast the other day, and I'm happy we're here again making a podcast now because Joe Rogan is the individual who inspired me to want to do a podcast. But I haven't seen any Joe Rogan in a long time. All of a sudden, Joe Rogan Kanye pops up. I'm like, oh shit, press play, watch that shit.
Yep.
Heard it, listened to it, watched it, 3 hours. And yeah, man, it's crazy because I was such a huge Kanye fan early on, college dropout, late registration, graduation. As Kanye was doing that podcast interview, I realized how much I was just like Kanye. And I started to think, I'm so much like Kanye because Kanye has programmed me. That early Kanye, college dropout, late registration, graduation, that's the blueprint of what made me who I am. It's like the social dilemma. Like if you go down a certain road and select certain things, you are more than likely going to end up here. And I feel like because I'm such a late registration fan, somewhere along the line that determined, you know what, I'm not going to drink fluoride in my water as you sip fluoride down your esophagus, destroying your pineal gland. And Kanye's sitting there talking about that with Joe Rogan. I've never heard Kanye say that in my entire life. And I'm like, damn, Kanye's like deep like that?
He said it, yeah. He's like, you brush your teeth. I remember he said you brush your teeth with fluoride, you put your deodorant on, it has fluoride, you drink your water, it has fluoride. And I was like, I didn't even know Kanye thought like that.
Right. I didn't either. But I'm like, damn, that's exactly how I think. Like I literally have fluoride-free toothpaste. I literally have like, a toothbrush made out of bamboo because I'm thinking about what's sustainable, what's going to make the world go longer. And so many people are wasting land mass on plastic toothbrushes that we're just going to decay never and just sit in the earth and just take up space. Like think about how many toothbrushes you've used in your life. You can have all the toothbrushes and put them in, lay them all out on your bed. That's a lot of toothbrushes. It would probably cover up the whole bed, maybe, but then multiply that times the population. And that is so much wasted space.
In the ocean right now.
Right. It's crazy.
I was at the ocean. It was crazy because I was at the ocean like a week ago with some friends and we were looking out at sunset. And I don't even know what made me say this, but I was just like, can you imagine? Oh, they said, isn't it crazy that the moon makes currents? Like it makes the waves. And I was like, yeah, can you imagine it if it didn't have a wave? And then I was like, imagine the ocean if it was clear and you could see to the bottom. I was like, maybe people would start giving a shit about global warming and the waste, such as toothbrushes. I said toothbrushes. Like imagine if they saw all that shit. I was like, I wonder if people would start caring then. Because that's an actual thing. Like they end up in our ocean and they wash the shore. And there's huge parts in the Atlantic and Pacific where there's just trash. It's like sad to see.
You can see visually from your perspective, like a trashy type of section of the ocean.
I've seen trash like wash up before. Like I've seen it like literally rolling through the wave, and I'm like, that's sad. Or even like at home where I'm from, I go to the lake and I see trash wash up there too. And it's because people leave their shit like on the beach. They leave it everywhere. And I'm like, dude, just if you bring something, clean it. Just It's not hard. If you're responsible enough to bring it here, you should be responsible enough to bring it back.
Right. If you make me responsible for this water bottle before I take off on this airplane, like I'm responsible for this water bottle. That's a Kanye reference. I completely agree with you, man. And I think what it is, I don't think people give a shit, unfortunately. I think somehow we've all been programmed to see terrible things and to just turn our back on them and to focus on ourselves and to just ignore it.
Everyone's saying like it is what it is. Have you ever heard that? It is what it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I feel like that's how everyone is now. There's a water bottle. There's trash on the side. It is what it is. Not my problem. I didn't do it. They just turn their head. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
I don't know that that's a good thing, but I just think that's where we're at now. Everyone's just, fuck it. It doesn't affect me.
Mentally, it is what it is nothing more than sweeping the dirt underneath the rug. Mm-hmm. Eventually, it is what it is going to catch up to you, and you're going to pull that rug back, or you're going to trip on that rug, and there's just going to be piles of dirt and soot and just nasty shit that you haven't dealt with. And that's what we're going into right now. That's where the world is spinning into. We have to start dealing with these things. We have to start dealing with these problems. We have to start dealing with our own problems. Before we get into the mental health portion of this podcast, I can hear it coming. Let me just go ahead and finish your question, which was if you could collaborate with two artists, who would it be? DOA. And still instinctively, my mind went to two people. The second individual is Flying Lotus. Are you a Flying Lotus fan?
I'm not a huge fan, so I'm not going to speak on it as if I know, but I've heard songs from Flying Lotus, but I'm not like a huge fan by any means.
Okay, check out Cosmogramma from Flying Lotus. Write that one down. Cosmogramma, Flying Lotus. And then when you're done with that, if you're about that life, listen to Flamagra by Flying Lotus, which is his latest project. Cosmogramma, I believe, is his sophomore release. And Flamagra, however you pronounce it, I could be butchering that, is his latest release. Check that out. Speaking of Flying Lotus has this label known as Brain Feeder. And Brain Feeder has an amazing Twitch channel. And the other night, Brain Feeder streamed an unedited version of a film called Kuso. Have you ever heard of Kuso?
I have not.
Do you like horror movies?
To a degree, yes.
To a degree? Do you like graphic, like wild ass shit? Like what the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah.
Check out Kuso. Kuso. Also Flying Lotus. Directed by Flying Lotus. I'm pretty sure Flying Lotus, his first name is Steve. And it's directed by Steve.
Isn't that amazing? So I've been thinking about this a lot. People who, like Gambino is a perfect example, who can make music but also like direct their own whatever form of art they want. Like that's like true genius. Like that is such true genius, and I think it goes so swept under the rug, almost as we were saying earlier about it is what it is. But like I don't think people realize just because someone doesn't have like a degree from Harvard or they haven't like Steve Jobs something, like a business, that alone, like Gambino to me is such a genius. And I don't even know who Flying Lotus is that much, but he, she, whoever it is, sounds like a fucking genius, like an actual genius. The fact that they do that.
He's a genius. Definitely. He's definitely a genius. No doubt. And that's what is so beautiful about art to me. To be able to think about something in your head and not just bring it to life sonically with the music, but to bring it to life physically, to manifest it. Like, that's why Kanye will say his greatest work of all time is My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. But go back and think about the first time you saw that film. It was like, damn, Kanye really snapped on this because he brought you into a world, created a world for you to live in. Nicki Minaj comes out with the intro and this dope ass poem, and the beat drops and the homies running, and you ain't got no fucking Yeezy on your Serato, stupid. What the hell do I know? I'm just a Chi-Town nigga with a Nas flow. Kanye's so dope.
Dude, Kanye is amazing.
So dope.
I love listening to his old interviews too. His old interviews with Big Boy, where he talks about like the fashion industry. I mean, he's definitely revolutionary. I mean, that man, if I could have an hour conversation with him, I wonder how much I would take from it, because he just seems like he's on a whole different wave.
No doubt. Kanye, man. And then regardless of what people think about him, regardless of any mistakes he might have made in the past, regardless of, any ill language or words that might have jumped out of his mouth on, instinct, I'm still such a Kanye fan, and I'm just such a Kanye appreciator, like I'm not that same kid who I was in college with the Louis Vuitton backpack and the polo shirts, longboarding on campus, blasting graduation, reciting every word at the top of my lungs, regardless of who's listening to me and is annoyed by me. I'm not that person anymore. I'm not that deep of a Kanye person, but I'm still the type of individual when Kanye speaks, I want to know what he has to say, because he's just so smart. He's just so different, and he has a different perspective. I love that quote that he says, I'm just telling the truth in a world full of lies. And that's crazy to people. People think that makes him crazy,
Yeah, that's what he said, yeah.
That's wild. That's such a concept, but it's so real and it's so deep on so many levels. It's crazy, man. So how is your current mental health, Jacob?
Man, the last few months, it's been different. I just moved out from home. I moved out to San Diego. So I came out here. And
oh, wow. You're in San Diego.
Yeah, now I'm in San Diego. I moved out here. I got COVID like the second week here, so I had a quarantine. That was tough on my mental health, because this is like my third quarantine, because I've had a quarantine twice in the past. So this was my third one, and I was just so over it.
Before you go forward, what are the other two occasions you had to quarantine?
My dad got it on July-ish, I believe. Beginning of July, my dad had it. And then at the very beginning, like the very, very beginning, when everyone else had a quarantine, which that one sucked. But the July one and this one here was probably the worst on my mental health. But this one was just the cherry on top, because I was just so over it. I was like, why? But it is what it is. I mean, I say that sweeping under the rug, but I've come to terms with it's in the past, and I know why that made me depressed. And I've gone out of my way recently to read a lot of books. I've looked toward books to make a difference. I've been reading this one book called Unfuck Your Intimacy. Basically teaches you a lot about like your brain, if you have like trauma, or how to deal with people who have trauma, how to talk to people better, understand their emotions. And I'm reading another book called Limitless at the same time by Jim Quick. And this book has taught me a lot to change my mindset, because I believe I have a great mindset even before I read this. But this book is like, no, like whatever you want to do it, but do it in the way that your brain focuses. So like with my mental health is like, I used to think of these thoughts in my head before bed, or when I woke up in the morning, like, oh shit, this sucks. Like I can't do this because this. But like as soon as I get those thoughts now, I'm just like, don't say that. Don't say that. Tell yourself laugh at it. Like just don't listen to it. Tell yourself you can. Just fucking do it. And if you don't get it now, it's okay. You'll get it eventually. But these books have really been helping me with my mental health, like significantly, drastically. And I don't even know why I looked toward books. I was just really looking for a way. Usually I listen to music, but I was just really looking for another way to enlighten my own brain on how I could really make a difference in my mental health. And the books are crazy. I mean, I've been taking them for granted. Books are knowledge. Books are changing me right now. I'm very grateful for it.
A lot of deep content in here to dissect. While we're on the topic, most recently, tell me more about this book, Limitless. I've seen you post this on Instagram or Twitter via your story, I believe.
Yeah.
Never heard of the book, but I'm curious about it. What would you say, in a elevator spiel, 60 seconds? What is this book actually about?
Book summarizes you to it. Basically, what I've taken from it is every brain is different. Every single person's brain is different. Any advice that I can give you, I can give it to you, but like I can't make you do it, and I can't know that it's going to work because our brains are different, and it's really just up to us to realize it doesn't matter what if I have ADHD or ADD or have been behind in math my whole life or these ideas. Like, you can do it. It teaches you that you can do it, and it teaches you effective ways to work out your mind, learn how to read, learn how to, not just scholarly wise, because people think of learning, they think of education, but that's kind of what I thought when I heard the word learn. I just associated it with like a scholarly degree, and this just teaches you how to learn, like emotions, learn how to handle your mindset. And I think that's something that we don't talk about enough.
That's deep, man. Now, you have been diagnosed with ADHD?
Yeah, when I was I think I was like 11, 10, I was diagnosed with ADD and ADHD, but I never took any medication. I refused to take the medication even as like a young kid. I took it one time, and I just remember I felt so off. I was like, dude, this is not me. I would rather just fucking deal with whatever I have, learn how to deal with it. I'm not taking this medication. And I never
That's
took
crazy.
anything for it.
That's crazy. I feel like Kanye said something about that. Did he not? Did he
Yeah, he
touch on
did.
that?
He said it fucked with his creativity. He said it limits people. It puts them in like their brain like in almost like a box where they can't be creative. They can't really think for themselves, is what he was trying to say.
And you're reading Limitless.
Yeah.
Does Limitless touch on ADHD or Adderall or these types of prescriptions?
It touches like the person who wrote this. He had like a really bad brain injury when he was a kid, so he was always behind in school. But he taught himself, like even after college, he was struggling to learn, and he taught himself like his own methods on how to learn. And he goes around helping, like Stan. Oh gosh, why am I messing this up? The creator of Marvel, Stanley Lee, or
Stanley,
what's
yeah.
his name? Yeah, Stan Lee. He mentored Stan Lee. He mentored all these people because he just came up with his own way, and he wrote a
The
book
guy that
about
wrote
it.
Limitless mentored Stan Lee.
Yeah, he talks about it in here. He said
he's an older gentleman then, huh?
He's an older gentleman, yeah. And he was on set for like X-Men. He has pictures of it and everything. But he basically talks about like our brains being superheroes. Like we're all superheroes. And he just breaks everything down in such an interesting perspective. Like he's like one of the things I was reading yesterday, he's like, huge myth is when people say the quote like knowledge is power. He's like, knowledge is not power, because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you can't use that knowledge effectively, then what good is the knowledge? Because if you can't actually use that to help you or someone else, then it doesn't do you any good to know it. If you aren't using it, you have to put that forward.
Interesting. I might have to check that out. Very interesting. Are you finished with this book?
3/4 of the way.
And this is like a self-help type book, right?
Yeah, I bought a few.
Very informative.
I bought another one. I bought 4 books. I bought another one that said, I haven't touched it yet though. It's basically different types of brains. Right now I'm very into looking into how unique people's brains are, and realizing that my brain is different from your brain is different from everyone else. No one is the same. We're all hardwired different. And I think that's a very beautiful concept that not a lot of people talk about.
I definitely agree with the idea that every human being on this planet is a superhero. Every human being on this planet has the capability to do whatever they want. However, along the way, we are knocked down mentally and physically by individuals that try and redirect us or try and morph us into what they want us to be, or spectators on the outside who try and hate on us because we're doing something that they wanted to do, but they couldn't do it. So since they couldn't do it, they lash out on us, but really they're just lashing out on themselves because they never reached that potential. I entirely, completely, 100% agree. Everyone on this planet has everything they need from a default position to do whatever they want to do. Unfortunately, we are all limited by, cultural differences or national differences or financial differences. And this is where the meter gets off, and some people are able to excel and some individuals are stagnant and forced to be on a lower level and never achieve what they wanted to achieve, because in their mind there's all these obstacles that are stopping them. And it's all a materialistic obstacle. It's all synthetic. Any of those obstacles can be broken down and pushed through.
That's exactly what it talks about in here too. Yeah, that's exactly how he not exactly how he says it, but that's what he says as well. Like, it's all materialistic. Like, what good is money? It's just an object.
Yeah, man, I hate the idea of money sometimes. I really do. So many people live their whole life with this mentality of money, and money's so important. Money comes first. I got to have money before I can get married. I got to have money before I can go to San Diego. I got to have money before I can, learn how to do whatever the fuck I want to do. And that's all fake. That's all bullshit. That's all a construct that society has created. So we play the game of society and the game of life, when in reality, you don't even need any of that stuff. You don't necessarily need a college degree to learn how to paint.
And I feel like people miss that, man, because we can look up to big celebrities, people with a lot of money, who will tell you money does not buy you happiness. There's people that will tell you firsthand experience, and people, I feel like, because you can learn from others, even if you don't know that person. That's why I love watching interviews. That's why I love listening to podcasts, is because you can learn from others. They're not just going to spit out lies they're not just going to lie like that. Like, if someone is telling you like, yo, money does not bring happiness, multiple people, then I feel like a lot of people just ignore that, man. And I don't think they get the bigger picture of what people are saying. Because when you talk about it too, like, I 100% agree. But I feel like some people just might hear that and not think in their brain. They're just like, yeah, but like, push it to the side. I feel like we're at a point where people really idolize money right now.
No doubt. That's the problem with the world. It's all about money. And it's so much about money, we can give two shits about the people that don't have money. I'm not saying from my mentality, but I'm saying from a global perspective. Like, think about it. We just went into pandemic, COVID-19, quarantine, and the billionaires of the world just made billions and billions more money, while the middle class and the poor got even more middle and even more poor. The poor got even more poor. The poorer, the rich got richer. And that's what's fucking this planet up. That's what's fucking up the world. That's what causes wars. That's what causes divide in society, in nations. It's money. It's all about money. And it sucks because money is just this stupid piece of paper that somebody printed out and said, okay, this has this value. When in reality, there's nothing more valuable than a good friendship. There's nothing more valuable than a family. There's nothing more valuable than love. There's nothing more valuable than that. Nothing can replace that. Nothing can equate to that. It is priceless.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a good father, it's priceless.
When people say they're rich, what are they rich with? You know, if I tell you, oh, I'm rich, people would think, yeah, you're broke. But it's like, no, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean.
Right.
I'm telling you, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm rich with all of that right now, but if in the future I had said that to someone, and I was rich with love, I was rich with health, I was rich with good friendships, a good mental health state. That's what being rich is to me, not just financial. But if someone were to tell you that, people would go, no, you're broke. You don't have money. Where do you live? Like, but that doesn't matter.
Right. It doesn't. And I applaud you for saying that. I applaud you for having that mentality. This is the type of individual that is going to co-host this music and mental health podcast. Because we should all take a bit of what Jacob is saying here to heart. We're all rich in our own ways. And it's very important that we say it out loud, because there's power in that. There's power in the idea of reciting what you are. So when we sit here and say, I'm rich, that's bringing in beautiful things to the universe. That's a beautiful law of attraction. I'm rich. I'm rich in health. I'm rich in family. I'm rich in love. I'm rich in happiness. Think about how priceless happiness is. And like you said, you could be the richest man in the world, all the money in the world, but you couldn't save yourself. And you're broke. All the money in the world, but you're broken. You can't get up. You can't live. You can't thrive because of this is holding you back, or what this person said is in your head and it is owning you. That's the landlord. This negative comment that is festering in your brain, it owns you. You pay a lease to that negativity. And that's only because you allow that lease. You can break that lease or that contract at any moment when you realize, when you get the fuck up and you realize, no, fuck that. I'm rich. I have a wonderful family. I have food. I'm not hungry. I have friends. I have a passion. I have a purpose. That's rich. And like I said, I applaud you for that, my brother. I really do. I think that's an incredible thing, man.
Love it. Yeah, man. I mean, something I think about a lot. And even if there's times where you can't find the richness in like those maybe 5, 6, I mean, like, I'm rich to look at the weather. It's sunny outside. Beautiful. That's like, there's so many things you can appreciate. So many little tiny things on a daily basis, but you have to notice them. So it's a weird, for me, that was how it is. I had to tell myself, like, no, listen, this is beautiful. Look at this, for like, just stop time, take a deep breath, and just recognize it. Because if you just are like constantly on your phone or constantly rushing, trying to get to the car, trying to get to fucking food, wherever you go, like, you're not going to notice the little things along the way. And the little things is what makes life beautiful. And it wasn't until I told myself that was true. Like, once I told myself that was true, that was when I realized, yeah, like, this is what life is about. Waking up every day, smelling that fresh air, taking a deep breath, those first thoughts when you wake up, or going outside and seeing the sun, maybe the rain, maybe wherever you're at, seeing the moon, looking up at the stars at night. Tiny little things can bring you happiness. And it wasn't
looking up at the stars at night. Pardon my interruption, but that's a big one, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, I look at the stars every night. I mean, all my friends, they always are waiting. Oh, there's the Big Dipper. There's the Big Dipper right there. No one will be like mid conversation about anything else. So there it is right there. You guys see it? Make sure everyone sees it, because the stars are so beautiful. stars represent a lot to me, and they're powerful. They're very powerful.
Are you a religious individual, Jacob?
I would say so, but I would say that I don't have a specific religion.
So you would say you're more spiritual than religious?
I reckon, yeah.
Great. I used to, I still do, but I don't even know why I said used to. A part of me believes that the stars are my religion. And I don't mean in an astrological way. I'm not talking about horoscopes and all of that, what some would call nonsense. I'm just very conscious of the stars. There are moments when I will go in the backyard in the wee hours of the night when everyone's sleeping because I need to attend to something, a ritual. And I look up in the sky on a clear night, man, and there is nothing like that clearness. You know, there's nothing like looking up in the stars when there's no clouds out and there's no light pollution.
Yes,
and just,
and you're hot. Yes, and you can see everything.
You could just pinpoint each star, and you just kind of wonder, like, damn, like that's so far out there. And sometimes the stars have like certain tints to them. You're like, oh, that's not a star. I think that's Mars actually, or that's a Jupiter. Like you can kind of tell. The more you stargaze, funny, every time I look up and I'm out there and I look up, I hear Travis Scott in my head, rolling, 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 stargaze. And I just hear it in my head, like relentless. And I'm like, yeah, this is what Travis was talking about. Travis is out there probably tripping balls, looking at the sky and like just loving life. But that's, you know, what's so crazy? Precious. Go ahead.
Some people like don't even know what that's like because they don't even know that, oh, you know, I'm in a really heavily populated area with light pollution and like
right.
I'm low elevation. Like they like if you right. go to a mountain with no light pollution that's really high in elevation and you look up at the stars and you truly see the stars and you can see that strip of the Milky Way galaxy with it, it is really powerful. Like, it is very powerful. If you just lay there and look at it, I can't even explain it.
No doubt. No doubt. I agree, man. That's one of my favorite parts about Arizona, the stars, man. Just looking at the stars in Arizona, because when you're out there in that desert, you can definitely find those pockets with no light pollution, no street lights. Mount Lemmon, to this day, if you ever get the opportunity to go in Tucson, Arizona, I still believe it's the most beautiful place in the world. Mount Lemmon, Tucson, Arizona. Perhaps
lemon or Lennon?
Lemon, like a tree, like a lemon tree. It's incredible. And that was always a spiritual place for me. And that was a place where I could just connect to the bigger purpose of things. And that's what the stars remind me. You know, we're sitting here so worried about bills, and we're so worried about what we want to accomplish and our dreams and our hopes and our wishes. But at the end of the day, man, when you look up there and you see the stars, none of that shit even matters. You know, it's back to that richness. It's back to that idea of what's actually priceless, you know?
Can I tell
you to be able to walk out there with good health and to see the stars is so priceless and so rich. But go ahead.
This analogy I had the other day. I don't even know why I had this analogy. But I was looking up at the stars, and I kind of made a comparison, like, to almost like social media, because the brightest stars you see in the sky, are dead by now. Like in real life, right now, they're burnt out, but they look bright because when they burn, they explode, and so that's why it's so bright, is because they turn really bright before they die. But I was thinking of that analogy almost with like social media, how people, they make themselves look so bright. They make themselves look like, oh, look at all this shit I have. I have, like, Dan Bilzerian. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's this Instagram dude. He said he made money doing poker. Every picture he has cash, he has girls, and basically he got exposed because like all of his stuff was fake.
I think I know you're talking about. He's kind of like a big swole, kind of like muscle.
Yeah, he's got the beard. Yeah, he's got the beard. Yeah. And so they caught him. They're like, no, like, you are $75 million in debt. Like, you have none of this. Like, none of this is really yours. But I just made that comparison, like a bright star almost. Like, it looks really good, but in comparison, like, it's really not. Like, to our eye, it looks like, oh, like, damn, I wish I was that one. I wish I was that. But you don't, because you really don't know what's happening inside.
Steep, man. I've always had this idea of the stars connecting to humanity. And I've always had this idea that each star in the sky is essentially synchronized with another individual. Like, did you know there are more stars in the sky, in the universe, in the multiverse? We should say, even. It's a multiverse. It's not a universe. It's ever expanding. It's multiple universes within one big black blob of space and time. And
like Spider-Man.
Got with Spider-Man colors right here. So I have always believed, I said this, in fact, on a podcast that never came out. We originally had a podcast. It was me, Schwai, Mike Holland, Six, all these cats chilling at Six's crib, and we tried to do this podcast. It never came out, and it just disintegrated. But I said this spiel within that podcast, and now in episode 18 of Music and Mental Health, I'm going to tell you the same thing, because you never heard it anyways. But the stars in the sky are directly related to human beings on this planet. And as you said, each star has a different luminosity. Each star shines a certain brightness of a certain magnitude. You have blue dwarfs, which are very small stars, which are very cold and not the brightest. Or you have like supernovas, right? Which are huge stars, but because they're shining so bright, their lifespan only lasts so long. And these supernovas are Jimi Hendrix, Bruce Lee, Bob Marley, Kurt Cobain, these individuals that have reached the masses, have reached the entire planet with their light. And because their light is shining so bright and they're so talented and they're so special, the light burns out. Because a star can only maintain a certain amount of luminosity before it explodes. Whereas, you know, these blue dwarfs might be there forever. They might be there for all what seems to be an eternity, because they're just in their own place. They're not necessarily shining for anybody. And this is the cat that's like 110 years old in like China right now, like doing his own thing. Like, or, you know, the woman in Africa who's 120 or whatever, like, you know, super low profile, but it costs to shine. It costs to step into the limelight. It costs to be a star. And the brighter you shine, the quicker your lifespan is. And I mean, but really, just think about that. Just think about all of the greatest musicians and the greatest artists and the greatest writers, you know, Langston Hughes or Edgar Allan Poe or, you know, whomever it might be.
Even people in today's generation, like Juice WRLD and X.
Yeah. Shining heavily, right?
Yeah. And I mean, still
X
today,
had a huge reach. Huge reach. Phenomenon.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Juice WRLD even, you know, huge reach. Phenomenon. But it only shines so bright for so long. Amy Winehouse. Mac Miller. You know?
Wow, what a crazy ass concept. Whew.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in that. To this day, I still believe in that. There's a star out there for you somewhere in that multiverse, and it's shining. Its luminosity is directly connected to your life, because we're all connected. I mean, even DNA, at the core of our atoms, there's stardust. They have found that. That's not a coincidence that there's stars pulsing through us, you know? Like, there's no coincidence that the universe is ever expanding. And when you zoom in on something, like, from this very minute point, it just, it expands. And then all of a sudden you're in this new dimension of, like, another world. And wait, the shit's still going, and I'm still zooming in, and I'm still zooming in. Like, you know, there's shit here right now that we can't see because it's too big, and our eyes and our brain can't process it. The same as there's things here right now that are so small, we can't process it just because our brains are so, you know, just particular in their own way, and our brain will never be able to process that. But that is a connection that we all share. We are all connected in our own ways, and we're also all connected to our own star. But at the same time, all the stars are connected to each other. You know, it's the constellations. They're all there. They're all present. They're everlasting. And some shine brighter and some shine dimmer. And that's my little rant for the day. What about you, Jacob? Why don't you give us a nice, positive rant? Can you just give the people, you know, maybe 60 seconds of just positivity?
Yeah.
You're so good at this on Twitter.
What's been running through my mind is basically what you were talking about earlier. You were saying we all have potential to be superheroes in our own mind, but sometimes we get brought down from obstacles in life. And I'm going through a time right now where I'm coming out of that obstacle. Like, I'm coming out of those challenges. I'm starting to see clear that, like, everything will be okay. And I've been a huge believer of that in the past, but sometimes you can't depend on other people to tell you that. Sometimes you need yourself. And I've really been there for myself. And I believe that if someone else had told me, like, you need to do this for yourself, not because we're telling you to, you need to do this for yourself. You need to believe in yourself. You need to stand up. You need to keep chasing your goals. Keep doing what you do. I believe that it would have helped me a ton. And I wish that more people had told me that. So I make it a goal to really emphasize to others that you can do it. You don't need me. You don't need anyone else. Obviously, our motivation will help, and we can guide you and tell you what to do. But you can do it. You can do it. And the second you stop telling yourself that you can't, I mean, you're going to be able to do whatever you want. It's really all mindset. It's all up to you. Because, for instance, if you went to a therapist, right, and they told you to, it's like an old therapist joke. How many therapists does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is 0. They can tell you how to change a light bulb, but it doesn't do shit if you don't fucking do it. So I can give you so much advice, but it's up to you. It's up to you as a human being to say, I want to do this. I need to make a difference in my life. I need to make an impact. I need to make a change. I need to make my health better for me. Physically, mentally, I need to check in on my friends. I need to check in on my family. And I just need to be a good person. I need to keep pushing. And I tell myself that every day now. Tell myself that every day.
What advice would you give an individual who feels massive amounts of depression and they feel like they can't push to do their purpose and they can't push on to do what makes them happy?
I would tell them that I've been there. I was just there like a month ago, 2 months ago, and I'm still kind of there, but I'm coming out of that state. And I would tell them that they're not alone and that their feelings are valid to feel that way. And it's perfectly okay to feel that way. It's the way the human brain works, and you're not crazy for going through that. But I would tell them just to keep, it sounds cliche, but keep pushing through, because you have to go through the dark in the tunnel to see the light at the end of it. And I always told myself that. I'd write it down. Just keep going. It'll pop up eventually. And things do get better with time. And your mind is stronger than you think. And you have the potential to change that one day. And it might not be now, but I believe that you can. I believe that everyone can. And it's a tough subject because everyone's brain is different. But I believe that we all can not make it out 100% fine, like rainbows everywhere, flowers, everything blooming, but it will be okay, and keep pushing.
That's great, man. That's great advice. I think that's great advice. You do have to push through the darkness of that tunnel to find the light. There is going to be that dark moment. There is going to be those cloudy days. It's inevitable, and you can't get around it. There's no escaping that. What's important is that you keep going, because the sun will shine again, and there will be light at the end of that tunnel. I definitely deeply agree with you, man.
But sometimes that tunnel's long as fuck. Sometimes that tunnel feels like it's never, you're just going to keep walking. You're just going to keep running into that wall, same wall. But you will get there to that light eventually. And that clarity will be there. And you'll be able to see again. And you'll finally have a grip again. But that day will come. As hard as it is to see right now.
Are you a My Morning Jacket fan?
What is that?
It's a band.
Never heard.
Check out My Morning Jacket. The Day is Coming. Listeners and Jacob, Mr. Lucero. The Day is Coming by My Morning Jacket. Great song. Amazing song. That's what made me think of that while you were on that passage there, my brother. Well, this has been incredible, man. I feel like I could talk to you for another hour. I'm not even going to lie, because there's so much even within this conversation that I feel like we can pick up on and dissect. And there's a lot that I want to ask you about COVID specifically.
You want to?
I do, but maybe not today. You know, we just started back on episode 18. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Music and Mental Health. We're here. I'm here with your co-host, Jacob Lucero, my brother, out in San Diego, holding it down. I will say this: if I'm curious, what made you move to San Diego? If you're comfortable talking about that.
I just felt it was time. I mean, I'm 20 years old. I know I'm still young, but I just felt it was time to live on my own, and there was nothing left for me where I lived at home. I just feel like out here, I've grown a lot out here. Even though I've been through some depression and some waves, it's helped me grow. Like, it's made me realize a lot, and it's making me mature. And it was just time. It was just time for me to go out on my own and hold it down and figure out who I am as a person, as a human being, before I really get my life going. Not like financially or anything like that. Just before I go any further in life, I just need to be secure up here, 100% up here. And so that's the journey I'm on right now.
Wow. Okay, my brother. Well, I wish you the best on that journey, and I am here to support you. So you're living alone right now?
No, I have 3 roommates, actually.
Okay, so when you said living alone, you meant like taking a hike away from your family and kind of just doing it.
I mean, I came down here on a limb. Like, I didn't know anybody, so that's what I meant. But yeah,
why San Diego? Why not LA?
For one, I've always wanted to move to San Diego since I was a kid. I mean, it's beautiful down here. I have the beach. I have nice weather, and I think it's a little bit. I don't know. I'm not a huge city guy. I'm not like the LA traffic just doesn't really cut it for me. I don't think I'd be able to do that every day. So San Diego is just beautiful. I've always wanted to live down here my whole life. And so I just said, one day I'm going to do it. And I'm blessed enough to be able to do it right now. And I'm trying to make the most out of it each and every single day.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Lucero is down there in San Diego, world famous Mr. Lucero. Look out for him. Ladies and gentlemen, he's out there on the beach. He's wilding. He's vibing. He's writing.
Hey, if they see me on the beach, they're gonna see me with a black backpack and this notebook and a book. That's what they're gonna see. I guarantee it.
I'm excited, man. I'm very excited to continue this journey with you on music and mental health. We're going for 1,000 episodes. How does that feel to you?
Hey, amazing. The energy is incredible. I could probably talk for the length of 1,000 episodes today. So,
Well, great. Well, you're the man for the job, my brother. Thank you so much for joining this team. I think everyone is very, very much excited to have you here. I'm also very excited to announce the Music and Mental Health Patreon, in which all of our listeners out there, we would greatly appreciate if you joined the Music and Mental Health Patreon, because it goes towards producing an even finer music and mental health. And the support will allow us to continue to do what we're doing. We'll be able to raise the quality on music and mental health. We have 3 different tiers of individuals. We have just the music and mental health fan, and then we have our music and mental health supporters, and then we have our music and mental health sponsors. Look out for the link for the Patreon. Sign up. We really, really appreciate you all listening today, right now, wherever you are. Remember what Jacob said. Just give yourself a moment, whatever you're going through, take a deep breath and realize how rich you are. And we're not talking about money, ladies and gentlemen. We don't necessarily need your money, and we're not demanding your money. We're demanding your attention, and we're demanding your rich qualities. But however, if you would like to support us, if you would like to be a sponsor, or if you would like to, just join the Patreon, we greatly, greatly appreciate that. And we have some merchandise gifts within that Patreon. If you are a member of Music and Mental Health Patreon for 3 months, you'll get some bonuses. We got some dope merch out there. We have hoodies, t-shirts, posters, stickers, all that. It's going to be very fun. I'm really excited for this new season. We're going to take this music and mental health to the next level. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't be more pleased to share the stage with such an intelligent, intellectual Mr. Lucero. Thank you so much for coming down and joining the team, man. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm so excited. This is so fun.
It's fun indeed. It feels good to talk about these kind of things. It feels good to just sit down and have a conversation. Remember the importance of podcasts, ladies and gentlemen. Just like Jacob said, it gives us the opportunity to learn from other individuals, or it gives us an opportunity to take a deeper look into a topic or an idea that might have been brushed under the rug. Any last words, Jacob?
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I really think we can take this thing to the next level, and this is amazing. This is crazy.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Case closed, episode 18. Every Tuesday, a brand new episode. And of course, if you're on the Music and Mental Health Patreon, you will get early access to the new episodes. Just one small perk of many. Look out for that link, ladies and gentlemen, Music and Mental Health Patreon. And thank you so much for listening to episode 18 with this amazing co-host. I got to keep talking you up, man, just because I'm just happy. You really make me happy. The fact that you're here and you jumped on board, it's amazing. So thank you, my brother Jacob. And I will see you next time.
Thank you.
And everyone out there, just keep vibing, guys. Keep vibing. Hang tight and keep vibing. You're going to be all right. Salud. Yoink, yoink. Deuces. Peace.